What's going on, everyone? So, per Damien Leone, who is the director of Terrifier 3, can't confirm the official runtime for Terrifier 3 just yet, but I can confirm it is shorter than Part 2. Who's happy it's shorter, and who wishes it was 5 hours long? Also, just for comparison, for those that are wondering, Part 1 was 1 hour and 25 minutes. Part 2 was 2 hours and 18 minutes. And then we have a full trailer coming soon in cinemas October 11th nationwide. So, diving right into it, right? Terrifier 2, being 2 hours and 18 minutes. Some people loved it. Some people thought it was far too long. I don't mind a long movie. I'll watch a 4-hour movie if it's engaging and there's a purpose to it, right? Terrifier 2, for me, I felt was a little long because I felt like there was a lot of stuff that you could have just kind of done without, or a couple things that dragged on a little too long, right? Like, great example that comes to mind that immediately pops in my head is the scene where the girl gets like butchered in the bed and the mom comes and the mom has the reaction, and you see, I felt like that entire sequence, like start to finish, really dragged on and kind of just kept trying to push the envelope more and more, which is fine at times. I love a good movie that pushes the envelope, but I just felt like you captured everything you wanted to capture in that moment, right? And then you kind of, it's like when a comedian drags on a joke too long. Or, you know, we've all been around somebody when, you know, it's like you laughed at the joke, or you laughed at the moment, or you understood what the person was trying to say, but then they keep just trying to explain it, or they keep trying to like drag it. It's like, all right, we get it. Like, it's kind of how I felt in that moment, and I'm sure other people might feel different. I wish I could show you a clip, but I don't want the video to get demonetized. Again, I love me some good, you know, gore. I love me some, you know, a good bloody film. No, I don't like the gore just for the sake of gore, but when there's a purpose, right? Like certain films, Terrifier, I enjoy, right? Like that to me is fine. Bring me some gore. I'm okay with it, right? But I don't want like things to get dragged out. Like, keep the film flowing, right? Like, I thought like that sequence in particular, just using it as an example that pops in my mind, right? She gets attacked. It's this gruesome, just crazy sequence that just really just shocks you, and you're just like, wow, right? You immediately captured the audience. You immediately got us invested in this moment. You know, you got the shock value. You got everything that you were trying to hit. And then you should have had just like the mom come in, boom, then she captures that scene. You have art kind of show and then the mom's reaction, and then that's it. You're done, over with, and you captured a perfect sequence, in my opinion, right? It's just my opinion, right? Because now you have the initial attack, you have the shock, oh my gosh, look how bloody and gruesome this is, wow, it was a creative kill, it was a creative sequence, and then you have the mom's reaction, so now we all have that feeling, like, can you imagine walking in and seeing your child that way? You know, as a parent, you feel that, right? You capture that roller coaster that you want, and then be done with it. But instead, it dragged on a little too long, right? To me, a lot of films will do that. Not just Terrifier, right? Like, a lot of films will have like a 2-hour and 30-minute runtime, or a 2-hour and 20-minute runtime. I've even talked about this with Scream, right? I've even talked about Scream, like, and like, hey, you know, trim the fat a little bit. Sometimes it's okay to just trim the fat. I would rather I want a film based on however long you can properly tell the story. Obviously, you know, films, directors and studios stuff want a film to be a certain length, right? So you got to kind of, and I understand that you got to kind of fill in some spots, but I'm one of those people, like, if you can tell your story clean, flush, and, you know, basically start to finish, it's just a smooth film, if you can do that in 45 minutes, fine, right? But don't take what is a 45-minute film and draw it out to, 2 hours, right? I mean, we've all seen things like that. I've broken down films like that. We've had conversations and live streams and stuff about that, right? And again, I'm not saying Terrifier 2 was that extreme. No, I didn't mind the runtime. I just thought you could cut a little bit of the fat, right? You could trim down some of the fat there a little bit to kind of make it more of a lean film, right? Like, that is what I'm hoping Terrifier 3 is, right? You kind of trimmed around the edges to really kind of get it tight and compact. But in the same breath, like I mentioned earlier, I don't mind. You could give me a 4-hour movie if that's what you need to properly tell the story, but you have to keep it fluid and engaged, right? When you have all this downtime, or you're dragging on sequences just to drag on sequences and stuff, which again, like, it's easy to say, right? Like, when you're like, I want to be, transparent, right? Like, it's easy to say from the outside looking in, and it's easy to say after seeing the finished product. But when you're in the moment, you're like, man, this is great. This is a great scene. Is there a way we can kind of, and you get the kind of the wheels turning a little bit, and you think something is going to come across better. And again, some people might absolutely love that, right? Some people might love, some of the filler, right? But like, even like when I'm watching a series or a show, right? Like, I'd rather a show be 8 episodes than 10, and 2 of the episodes, or 30 minutes of each episode is just filler. Like, can we get to what this is, right? So to me, it's like, you still need to tell a story, right? You don't want just Art showing up, boom, he's just taking everybody out, and then that's the end of the movie, and you're like, okay, like, cool, we got some great kills, but like, where's the story, right? Where's the, you still want to have character development. You still want to have storytelling. You still want to have elements. I'm not saying cut that stuff out, but again, there's always things that you can kind of trim. There's always ways to make things more efficient, right? There's always ways to make things more tight and refined, right? And so, to me, I'm okay with the film. Again, like, Damien Leone says, right? Hey, who's disappointed it's not 5 hours? I am, if you can give me a good 5-hour Terrifier film, right? If you can keep me engaged and invested for 5 hours, let's go, right? Like, but if you can tell the story, my point is, I don't want you to make a 5-hour film that you can properly do in an hour and a half, because then there's going to be a lot of fluff. There's going to be a lot of stuff in there that just isn't necessary and isn't needed, right? Like, I want a nice, tight film. I mean, you look at some of the, some people just don't like long films, period. But you look at most of the greatest films ever, right? The most highest grossing films ever, all of that. They're all like 2.5 hours plus. You think of things like Titanic and Avengers and, Endgame and Infinity War. I mean, that combined was like, 5 hours or over 5 hours, right? You think of, like Avatar and all this stuff, right? Like, all these like multi-billion-dollar projects are all, 3 hours long. So there is a market for it. But also you got to keep in perspective the horror genre, right? Like, you're telling a drama, or, this intricate love story and all that stuff, right? You can kind of draw stuff out because that's kind of what people expect and that. But like horror, a lot of times people want that, hits. Like, you got to kind of, like, if, for example, if Terrifier, right, you go into Terrifier 3, you have an expectation of how much blood and gore and kills and all that should be in, right? But if you have, again, say an hour and a half movie, and, you have a kill in the opening, and then you have like 30 to 40 minutes of nobody dying, right? Like, you're going to be like, this movie is terrible. Like, I've been sitting here for 45 minutes and no one's died, right? You have that expectation. You have that idea in your head. And you know, it varies for everybody. You know, some people want an epic kill every 10 minutes or every 5 minutes or whatever, right? But like I mentioned, you still need to let the story marinate. You still need to let the story flow. And again, I'm okay with a shorter film. I'm okay with a more compact, tight film if you're able to get across what you need to get across, right? In the same way that I've talked about films, you know, where you're just like, ah, man, you could easily cut like 30 minutes out of that film, right? There are films in which we've all seen where you're like, God, I wish that was an extra like 30 minutes just to kind of better flush that out, right? Like there's some films where you're just like, come on, can we get to the point already? Right? Can we kind of move this along? And then there's films where it's like, man, that really should have been another like 30 minutes because they really rushed that. Right? Like a lot of endings do that. Where you're just like, man, you couldn't have made this an extra 10 minutes and just really kind of flushed out this ending, right? Or cut 10 minutes elsewhere to make this better. Like, you know, there's both sides of that coin. Right? Like, you know, one of the big movies that I criticized that I felt like committed this cardinal sin, right, was Halloween Kills, right? That was a movie that was like, what, an hour and 40 minutes or an hour and 45 minutes that you literally could have done in like 30. Yeah, like literally. Like you could have cut 90% of that movie out. You know, you could have just compacted to where he's just running through, you know, you had the opening sequence, which I thought was cool, you know, a little callback. Okay, cool. Then just had, you know, Michael, you pick up where he's at. Michael's just running through the town. I mean, you had like a 10-minute sequence where all it was the people rioting and screaming and shouting, "Evil dies tonight." Like literally, like you had multiple sequences like that. When we already got the point across, okay, we get it. The town is in a frenzy right now. Everyone's losing their mind and everyone's, you know, trying to track down Michael and do this epic stuff, right? And then you end up falling into that cardinal sin of like just drawing it out over and and it's like, again, it's like the joke that just, okay, we get it. We got the joke. That's fine. Thanks. Right? Like that is a great example in my opinion. Like you could have cut out, bare minimum, right? You could have cut out probably 20 to 30 minutes of that film. Just because they just kept drawing on the point of the town in a frenzy. You could have easily just shown, you know, given the speech, evil dies tonight, boom, everyone's rioting, yeah, let's go, right? And it's just this chaos, boom, you know, see Tommy going around and getting all the townspeople together, boom, that's another like little 10-second sequence. Then you have like the chaos at the hospital where, you know, the guy gets, you know, ends up being mistaken and taken out, boom, right? And you could have cut out everything else. You could have cut out all of the other, you know, him driving around and, you know, talking to various people and all that stuff, and then the chants, and it's just, you drew it out just to draw it out because you didn't want the movie to be an hour long. You wanted the movie to be an hour and 45 minutes long, right? It's like stuff like that. And again, however you feel about Halloween Kills, you might have loved it, you might have hated it, however you feel about it, you really thought that 20 minutes of just rioting was really necessary? It really took you that long to figure out what the point and the purpose was? But that's just something that immediately came to mind that kind of highlights what I'm getting at, right? I want nice, tight, packed films. Let's get to the point. Obviously, you got to tell the story, got to develop the characters, which I think a lot of films really miss on, right? A lot of films are, which makes it so challenging, right? Because there is this balance. You have to have this balance of telling a story, developing characters, and giving the people what they want in the sense of horror, right? And sometimes it's very hard to do, right? But you want, that's why I like the idea of like, you know, you had Terrifier 2 as like the setup, and I even like the idea and concept of the Halloween trilogy. I thought Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, personally, I thought those two films were awful. But I like the idea where, you have the establishment film, then you have kind of like the continuation, here's the meat and potato type thing, and then you have the kind of conclusion film. So it's basically a trilogy, but it's almost all one movie. I like that idea. I just thought Halloween's execution was awful, right? So it's one of the reasons why I like the idea of a lot of these horror films being converted into series, right? Because instead of 2 hours, you have now 8 to 10 hours, and you can properly flush out things, right? So again, it's harder to compact things into 2 hours, which I get. But you also don't want a bunch of fluff when you can, get to the point, right? And now this video is being drawn out and and becoming everything. I am becoming the thing I am trying to destroy. But you guys get the point. You guys understand it. You guys get it. I'm excited for Terrifier 3. Absolutely excited for Terrifier 3. Damien Leone, he's a great guy. I love the Terrifier franchise. I hope he makes 10 of these films. Genuinely. And so I'm really looking forward to this upcoming film, and hopefully, it's hopefully he's able to get out everything he needs to get out, and hopefully it's long enough for us to enjoy it. We're not like, what, this is only 30 minutes? I'm sure it'll be close to 2 hours. My guess, probably, an hour and 45 minutes, somewhere in that range. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree with my points? Do you disagree with my points? Are you kind of in the middle? What are your thoughts on Terrifier 3? Are you excited? Are you not? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. It's me enjoy these types of videos. Truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you.